Hello guys, welcome back to Fanfic Dojo. Today we will be listening to What If Rejected Naruto Found Peace in Ino's Heart Part 2. An hour later, Naruto traveled fast on his feet, hoping to create enough distance between him and the village. They would definitely be sending hunter nins after him as soon as they become organized. He knew what their mission was and he wasn't going to be around for them to finish the job. Just when Naruto jumped from one tree to the next, he noticed something odd. He felt like he was going in circles. There was no doubt about it. He could feel something different, but he couldn't ignore this fake feeling. He landed near a bush, determined to perform a more thorough check, but when he put his hand near the bush, his hand went through the bush, indicating that he was caught in a genjutsu. Naruto frowned. Just when was I trapped in this genjutsu? I didn't even detect one. He recalled one of his earliest lessons from Arrow Sennin. The easiest way of breaking out of a genjutsu is to overload and disrupt the chakra flow. The Sanin's voice echoed through his head. He closed his eyes and began the process. Within minutes, huge amounts of chakra exploded from him at uneven intervals. When Naruto opened his eyes, his surroundings was completely different than before. His senses went on high alert when he felt another presence coming from behind him. "I'm glad to see that you are still in one piece." Itachi spoke up, stepping out from the trees, his cloak flapping quietly from the breeze. "You're late." Naruto glared at the man. "There were some issues that I had to resolve before leaving the village." "You could have left him for another time," Itachi pointed out. Naruto narrowed his eyes, wondering how he could have known what happened. His eyes widened slightly when he realized that Itachi never actually left the village. He stayed behind to monitor his activities from the sides. "You don't trust me?" Itachi shrugged, knowing that Naruto had already figured it out. "Think of it as a safety measure." Naruto sighed. Talking to this guy was like talking to Guy. Both of them were as strong as they were queer. The only time they were normal was when the situation required it to be. "I'm here about that deal, Itachi," Naruto stated. "Of course, follow me." Itachi turned around and walked deeper into the woods without mentioning another word. Naruto stared at the missing nin, wondering why he was being so cooperative. "Are you coming? We can talk about it in a more secure location," Itachi called from over his shoulders. Naruto watched Itachi's retreating figure before following him, his eyes constantly searching the area for any kind of trap. "Sit," the Uchiha ordered. Naruto looked around, taking his time to inspect the camp. He checked for any sort of traps and hidden weapons. It wasn't because he didn't trust Itachi, it was from his earlier experiences that told him not to put all your trust into one person. "Make yourself comfortable, Naruto-kun," Itachi spoke up, interrupting Naruto's thoughts. "Enough of the small talk, Itachi," Naruto interrupted. He was here for one reason and one reason only. To find out what Itachi knew. "I want that information. I held up my end of the bargain. Now it's time to tell me what you know." "I see subtlety isn't one of your strong points," Itachi commented. "Did you seriously believe that by serving the council, they would respect you? You live in that dream world where you actually thought respect comes from the things that you done. It's time to wake up. You will always be the Kyuubi no Kitsune to them. Uzumaki Naruto never existed." Naruto growled. "Tell me something that I don't already know. Get to your point." Itachi glared. "Tell me. How corrupted do you think the village is?" Naruto shrugged. "At this point, I don't really care how corrupted in their filth they are. They could kill each in broad daylight and I wouldn't give a damn. It would save me the hassle of doing it myself." Itachi frowned. "Humor me. If you didn't hate them, just tell me how corrupted it is." Naruto shrugged, not really caring. "Fine. Maybe there's some corruption in power," he sarcastically answered. Itachi raised an eyebrow, nodding at his response. "You are only half right." He raised his finger. "Now my next question to you is why do they want you dead?" "I'm the bloody freaking Kyuubi." I think that says enough. Naruto coldly answered. His patience was running thin because Itachi was asking questions that served no relevance to his cause. Itachi nodded, approving of his answer. When the council couldn't turn you into a weapon, you became a liability for them. You became a danger to everything they stand for. They detested your existence. They were afraid of you, afraid of whom you are, afraid of what you are. When they couldn't turn you into their weapon, they had to terminate you. They couldn't let a loose cannon wander around. Why don't you tell me something that I don't already know? If this is all to your secret, Itachi, then I'm leaving. Do you remember the Uchiha massacre? Itachi quietly replied. This was a topic that he hasn't shared an outsider before, but it was finally time to pass on the story. Naruto quickly turned his attention towards Itachi, giving him an intense murderous glare. I'll take it as a yes. Itachi sat there, unfazed by the glare. He wasn't surprised with the look he received. With his little brother back in the village, Sasuke was a living, breathing reminder of the horrid events that took place that night. It was because of what you did that Sasuke turned out like this. Naruto erupted from his seat, his hand found its way onto Itachi's throat. Naruto slammed Itachi into a tree, his eyes beginning to change from blue to a bright red. Killing intent started flowing out from Naruto like a faucet. Itachi struggled against Naruto's grip as he stared into his eyes. It was almost as if Naruto was staring into his soul, just waiting for him to die so he can devour it. It was you, Naruto coldly whispered. That set forth the chain of events that forever changed Konoha. Itachi felt the pressure around his throat increasing. He figured Naruto would do something rational, but he never expected him to be like this. He was caught completely off guard by the attack. He did the only thing that could have calmed anyone down. Bring out the evidence. He reached behind his back and took out a scroll. Read it and then you will understand. Naruto grabbed the scroll away from Itachi and opened it with his left hand, not releasing the Uchiha. He recognized the scroll. It was a personal scroll from the files of Sarutobi, the former third Hokage. As Naruto skimmed through the scroll, his eyes widened as he went from top to bottom. He couldn't believe the material that was written on it. It had to be all lies, it has to be. He found his hand shaking. No. His entire body was shaking from the news. He dropped both Itachi and the scroll before falling to his knees. Itachi massaged his throat, feeling glad to be free from the man's grip. Do you understand now? We, the mighty Uchiha clan, was one of the most corrupted clans to have ever lived in Konoha. Bribery, assassination, anything you can name, we did it. We were the backbone of the Konoha police force. Who would dare to stand against us? We had the power to conquer Konoha if we so desired it. They were your family. Naruto, still shaken up. It went against everything that he was taught, everything that he knew. There was no way the Sandaime could have given the order to execute of the entire Uchiha clan. The kind old man who gave his life to protect the village and everyone in it. Naruto closed his eyes, trying to calm himself down. Why would he order something like this? He cared for everyone in this village like his own family. The Sandaime realized that a number of clans were being corrupted from within Konoha. If a plant developed a bad root, you would cut it off before it spreads, to keep the plant normal. In this case, I did exactly the same thing. Do you feel no remorse from your actions? Naruto quietly asked. He didn't even look at Itachi. He just stared straight at the ground, desperately searching for other possible reasons. Itachi shook his head. The order was given and it was clear that there couldn't be any survivors. And Sasuke, there had to be someone left that can carry this burden and to come after me for the sins that I have committed. I have chosen Sasuke for this task. Naruto finally picked his head up, his eyes returning back to their original color. Silence engulfed the area, both men unable to find the right words to say to each other. You're just like me. We gave everything to serve Konoha, and in the end, we were just a mindless soldier who did as they were told but was cast aside when we were no longer needed. Itachi spoke up, trying to show some emotion but failed miserably. Naruto never looked up, his hands clenching to the ground. I'm nothing like you, Itachi. I'm sure of that. Was he just another Itachi? Of course there were some similarities, but he was different. He had to be. I see. I will take my leave, but remember, the next time we meet, it will be as enemies. Itachi took a step back before disappearing into the darkness of the forest. Arg! Naruto screamed into the air, wanting nothing more than to let this pain out. Birds flew away from the area, trying to get away from the deafening roar. Tsunade gripped the table with her bare hands, trying to prevent herself from lashing out against them. It has been 2 hours since they started this meeting and they were getting absolutely nowhere. For the last time, it is not his fault. She yelled. These people weren't budging an inch. She tried for hours convincing them that Naruto wasn't at fault. Tsunade-sama. With all due respect, the demon almost killed Danzo-san, wipe out about 20% of our forces, and cause the deaths of many civilians. How can we just let that slide? An elder spoke up. Tsunade growled in annoyance. They were just repeating and rephrasing the same thing over and over. If only there was some sign. Anything would do. Yoheim. She heard the door open and saw who was poking their head inside. Speak of the devil. He'll do just fine. Jiraiya. Tsunade nodded her head, granting him permission to enter the room. Several elders gasped around the room. You have the audacity to show your face in our presence after what you did. We should hang you for treason. Kaharu threatened. Jiraiya ignored the woman's threat. He received much better threats than that, and compared to them, hers was childish. You have no control over me. I may be a ninja under the name of Konoha due to my contract, but nowhere in there does it state that I have to take orders from a group of ignorant fools. He faced the council. I am Jiraiya of the legendary Sannin, the title given to me by Hanzo himself. Both sides greeted each other with an intense glare. I would have let you guys die in cold blood if I had the chance. Jiraiya boasted. He wasn't afraid of them. These people have tasted the intoxicating essence of power and have become drunk with it. They are just not fit to be on the council anymore. Jiraiya. Tsunade called. He was making matters worse than it already is. If my student wanted, you guys would have been 10 feet under a long time ago. I truly train quite a few monsters. Jiraiya rubbed his chin, thinking back to his past students. They were truly a work of art. Jiraiya. Tsunade raised her voice a little. If I had my way, all of you would be. Jiraiya. Tsunade shouted, slamming her hands on the table. Yes. Jiraiya looked at her in surprise. He had forgotten that he was in the room with her while he was boasting off his achievements. Getting back to business. She cleared her throat. Something had to be done here. The balance of power has already shifted. If she doesn't act fast enough, the council will grow more powerful than the Hokage itself. We have decided to put Uzumaki into the bingo books. Homura stated. He is too dangerous to be left free. Fine. Rank a missing nin. She pulled out some paperwork, getting ready to write down the initial details. Rank SS. Hiyashi's voice spoke up. Both Jiraiya and Tsunade looked up, wondering if they heard the news right. Rank SS. Tsunade stuttered. Are you insane? Hiyashi stood up, knowing that it was his turn to explain the decision. He is classified as both a cage-level ninja and he also has the Kyuubi in him, the strongest of all demons. He deserves the rank of SS. He is better to us dead than alive. Other people started to join in, supporting Hiyashi of his idea. No. Tsunade calmly said. I refuse to do it. Jiraiya started applauding slowly. I am the Hokage of this village and I do not see him as a threat. You have elected me as Hokage, to serve and protect this village and I will continue to do it until the day I die. She finished her speech by folding her arms, glaring at each member. Jiraiya, throughout the speech, stood up and was clapping loudly. I don't think you understand the situation, Tsunade-sama. We're in a time of crisis, which means that your power and our power are one and the same. During this time, we will vote and decide on important issues that concerns itself with the village. Kaharu spoke up this time. All in favor of the decision. Please stand up. One by one, leaders of different clans started standing up. Tsunade stared at each of them in disbelief. Why? Naruto was friends with your children. He would never harm a single hair on them. It is because of that reason why we decided to do it, Hokage-sama. Inoichi quietly said. We have children that we want to protect, the children that we want to see succeed us. They are our future and we must protect it for their sake. Before Tsunade could open her mouth. Inoichi is right. We're sorry, Tsunade-sama, but it is only for the best. Shikaku spoke up, interrupting her. Tsunade felt her anger just about to burst. These people are insufferable. Stubborn old fools were too afraid to let go of the old way. She slammed her fist down at the table, causing it to crack a little. Fine. Do what you want with his ranking, but know this, I will not be held responsible for whatever ninjas you send after him. With that last statement, Tsunade walked out of the room, leaving them to think it over. Naruto, for the second time today, started to feel tears dripping down his face. He sniffled. I will never be manipulated again. From this day forward, the world and everything else in it is dead to me. He got up slowly, taking deep breaths. From this day forward, I will never be a Konoha ninja again. He summoned his blade of wind, scratching out the leaf symbol on his Hitai-8. May Kami-sama have mercy on the souls of those Konoha ninjas. He tied the Hitai-8 on his arm. Because they will be as good as dead. He slowly walked away, disappearing into the forest. What am I going to do, Jiraiya? I just marked Naruto for death. Rank SS. That's just like saying, kill me now. Tsunade buried her head under her arms, feeling her heart breaking. I trained that Gaki Haim. Don't worry. If anyone could survive this, it's that kid. Like you keep your eye on those hot springs, I bet. Tsunade muttered under her breath. Jiraiya laughed. See what you can do. I'm going to start looking for him now. Jiraiya opened the window and jumped away, leaving the Hokage to collect her own thoughts. A knock appeared on the door, disturbing Tsunade. What the hell is it now? She barked out. She wasn't in the mood for this. The new bingo book, Hokage-sama. A timid Chunin answered. She quickly took it and was flipping through the pages until she reached the name she was looking for. Her eyes widened when she read the rank. So those bastards actually went through with it. She looked up and still saw the Chunin standing there. What the hell are you waiting for? Get out of my sight. The Chunin quickly ran out of the room, scared because of all those rumors concerning the Hokage. The legendary Tsunade, the slug princess, capable of smashing mountains with her bare hands and the best medics that resides in Konoha. It was a death wish to get on her bad side. Tsunade watched as the Chunin ran out of the room, probably feeling scared. Shizune, get in here, the already pissed off woman screamed. Shizune immediately entered, already knowing what was tormenting her. Take this down. I want a team of trackers to go after Naruto immediately. I want to hear his side of the story. He is to be approached unharmed. Shizune jotted down the message, nodding her head as she took notes. Get me Kiba Inuzuka, Neji Hyuga and Shino Aburame. 2 out of the 3 are currently unavailable, Tsunade-sama. Why not? Tsunade raised her voice. Things were falling apart here. God, she missed her old gambling days. The days where all she had to worry about was debt collectors, not people's lives. Kiba and Neji are currently stated to be in critical condition from fighting with Naruto. Tsunade raised her eyebrow. At the same time, yes. This was rather interesting. Naruto just took out two of her best Junin at the same time. Get me Hatake Kakashi and Hinata Hyuga. Shizune looked through her list, nodding her head, indicating that they were available. Get to it. I want him found ASAP. Shizune hurried out of the room, knowing the state of anger Tsunade would have if things weren't done around here. Things are going accordingly to plan. A dark figure stood up from the chair smiling. And Danzo. The ninja hesitated before continuing. It looks like Naruto crippled him and his root unit before leaving Konoha. The man frowned. This wasn't good news. He needed Danzo for the next step. Damn that Jinchuriki. He became a wild card that was not to be underestimated. No matter. The wheels of fate is already turning. It is only a matter of time before Konoha crumbles under my power. The man started laughing. It wasn't the usual evil laugh from most villains, this one was more sinister, more diabolical. Well, what are you waiting for, Sasuke? Get out of my sight. As you wish, Shinrei-sama. Sasuke bowed and took his leave. Shinrei watched his apprentice's retreating form. Orochimaru was a fool to let you go. If it is power that you want, Sasuke, you better be careful for what you wish for. He started laughing once again before walking out of the room himself. Well, brat, you should have listened to me. Didn't I warn you that humans were greedy and ignorant? All you humans are just too pitiful, but it no longer matters, the ends will justify the means. A rough and deep voice echoed through Naruto's mind. Only the weak needs to rely on people. The strong only depends on themselves. Naruto scowled at the voice in his head. You dare to lecture me now? Where were you when I was getting ambushed by the village? He still haven't forgotten about that time when he was abandoned by the demon. I'm sorry. Did you want me to hold your hand while we waltz out of the village? In case you've forgotten, you have full access to my chakra at any given time. Stop your whining. I didn't train you so you can whine. Naruto felt the voice pounding inside his head, louder and harder each time. Enough preaching, Kyuubi. I need a place to lay low for a while. Any ideas? The voice chuckled. I hope you enjoy hot places. A calm breeze blew through the windows as the young Kazekage relaxed in his office. The night was always a blessing compared to the scorching mid-afternoons. He sat in his office, staring at his own hands, his own rough hands. He has been thinking the same thing for the past couple of days now, thinking about the important question. He saw the calendar on the wall and noticed something. Today was the anniversary of the day when he was first instated as the Kazekage. After all these years, he still had his doubts. Gaara sighed as he leaned into his chair. Was it really worth becoming a cage of a village? He didn't know anymore. Did he really think that by becoming the Kazekage, everyone would no longer fear him? Whom was he kidding? Of course there was going to be some people who still saw him as a monster, but there were others that once saw him as a monster had changed their ways. Did they genuinely change their views, or did they change because they were afraid of him? Afraid of the power that he had. He just didn't know anymore. He only accepted this job from Baki because of him. Flashback. Why is it so important that you would risk your life to become Hokage? The man next to him stayed silent. People have asked him in the past and he always gave them the same answer. I want to be Hokage because it would mean acknowledgement. The two men sat under a shady tree playing shogi. It turned out that the both of them played shogi in their spare time. Shogi allowed them to take a break from reality, allowed them to forget the problems that they were constantly faced with. It was a while before either of them spoke again. We're different from most people, Gaara. We have been through too much hatred to give up now. By becoming Hokage of our respectful villages, it would show these narrow-minded villagers that we are no different from them. We are every bit human as they are. The man said while moving a piece up. Your move. Gaara stared at the board, pondering about his next move. He could move this piece over there and win the match, but this opponent wasn't just anyone. He was a similar being. Naruto Uzumaki. He held him in the highest respect. Gaara weighed his options, wondering if this was the best move or not. He decided to risk it. It was either do or die. No turning back now. Naruto sat there as he watched Gaara take his bait. Check. He heard the young Kage speak. Watch the way people move, Gaara. There is always an ulterior motive, Gaara. Remember that. Naruto moved the piece before into a different position, ending the game. Check in, mate. Gaara stared at the young man before him. He felt himself letting out a small chuckle. You are a strange one indeed, Naruto. Flashback end. It has been a while since they last communicated. His duties as Kage have left him with no time to travel out of the country, much less to visit people important to him. The last time he visited Konoha was a year ago when he was on a diplomatic visit. Hello, Gaara. A cold voice spoke up. The cloak flapped against the breeze, hiding the person's physical features nicely. Gaara immediately turned his chair around, his sand already making their way towards the intruder. He narrowed his eyes, trying to recognize his assailant. Cripple then asked questions later. That has always been his style. He raised his left hand, commanding the sand to surround him, intending of crushing his midnight visitor. I'm hurt that you don't remember me. He's fast. Gaara thought as the person disappeared, avoiding his sand. He turned his head around and was surprised to see the person standing in the light, revealing himself. It took him a few seconds to recognize his intruder. It wasn't hard to identify him. He only knew a few people that had blonde hair. Temari was traveling to Konoha to visit her sorry excuse of a man boyfriend, and then there was Naruto. Why are you here? The Kagekage asked, lowering his sand. It was rare for a ninja to show up in his office unannounced. Shouldn't you be in Konoha doing guard duty or something? I no longer have respect for those fools. Naruto coldly answered. They can rot in their own filth. Gaara noticed the tone difference in his friend. It sounded more distant, as if it was trying to cover up something. Something serious must have happened if Naruto showed up in his office near midnight with no explanation at all. Gaara also took note that Naruto's facial expression was different. His face no longer showed emotion except when the subject of Konoha was brought up. Anger and hatred could be seen from his eyes clearly for a split second before disappearing. He could only venture a guess about what happened. You have to tell me something, Naruto. I don't have to tell you anything. Naruto replied, snapping at Gaara. Realizing what he did, he apologized. Sorry. I'm just exhausted. He closed his eyes and massaged his temples. It has been a hectic week, running non-stop from Konoha all the way here. I just need a place to stay for one night. Gaara reluctantly gave in. It was unethical for a Kage to house a missing nin, but this was his friend. His very first friend. Stay in my spare room. I'm sure you know where that is. Naruto nodded, and walked towards the window. He stopped when a sand-shaped hand blocked his exit. Do not wake Matsui up. She had a long day. Naruto raised his eyebrow to question Gaara but decided not to when he saw that Gaara death-like glare. The sand slowly dropped to the ground when the two nodded their heads slightly, a silent agreement between men. Naruto disappeared in the night, leaving Gaara to follow behind. Next morning, Gaara stood outside the door, wondering if it was wise to knock or to just open. If he decided to just open the door, he might see something he didn't want to see, whereas if he knocked and awakened Naruto, he would probably end up with a Rasengan to the face. It was already 10 in the morning and Matsui would probably kill him for making a mess in the house. Naruto. I'm coming in. Gaara said out loud. He figured he would give the blonde a warning before he entered. He leaned against the door, trying to see if there was any movement going inside. Surprisingly, he heard nothing. Taking his chances, he slowly opened the door. He expected the blonde to be snoring or lying unconsciously on the bed. Given his appearance from last night, he half expected him to be knocked out for at least 2 days. Naruto. No answer. Gaara looked around the room. It was still clean, if as there was no sign of a person ever living here. Naruto, are you in here? He asked once more. He looked around in the room, noting that the bed has not been touched, but there was something by the table. By closer examination, there was a note left behind that was intended for him. Gaara, staying here would cause your village trouble. We can't have a missing nin cause trouble for you now. I'll deal with these problems myself. Gaara stared hard at the piece of paper, reading it over twice. That fool, he cursed out loud. Why must he always play the hero that takes on everyone else's problem? That was one thing he'll never understand about him. Why couldn't he just care about himself before others? Was that just too hard to understand? Is something the matter, Gaara-kun? Matsui appeared at the door, looking worried. It was unlike Gaara to just curse without reason. Nothing, Matsui. Nothing at all. Gaara replied as he crumpled up the paper. If looks could burn, that paper would have been in hell by now. 2 weeks later. The doors opened in a hurry, revealing an anxious Kankuro. Gaara, I think you should take a look at this. He waved a small booklet in his hands. Gaara continued to do his paperwork, ignoring his brother's presence. This had to be out by today, and he'll be damned if he was late to dinner again. Not now. Get out. But I seriously think you should. Kankuro protested. Gaara looked up and glared at him. Fine. Have it your way. Kankuro threw the booklet at his younger brother, knowing that without Tamari or Matsui here, Gaara wouldn't listen to anyone. He was so focused on his job that he sometimes forget to eat lunch. Gaara removed the booklet from his face and looked at it. The new bingo book. He looked at Kankuro, waiting for him to further explain. Are you hinting that I should quit my day job and make a career hunting these people? Kankuro rolled his eyes and shook his head. Turn to the last page. Gaara flipped to the last page, his eyes widened from surprise. What the hell is this? This has got to be a mistake. Is this some kind of joke? He threw the booklet down, anger written across his face. On the last page, it was a face that they were all too familiarized with. Naruto Uzumaki. Known affiliates, The Silent Storm. Rank SS missing nin, to be killed on sight. Personal info. Extremely dangerous and should not approach alone. Wanted for the murder and endangerment of Konoha residents. What the hell is this trash? Gaara angrily shouted, demanding an answer. The sand started gathering around Gaara, responding to their owner's intentions. Was this the reason why he left? No, it must be something else. Naruto wouldn't kill anyone, much less those villagers. Kankuro backed away, actually fearing his younger brother in years. In all his life, he has never seen Gaara this enraged. Not even back during the Chunin exams when his seal was still unstable. I want all trades, alliances, resources, anything remotely connected to Konoha in my office within 5 minutes. Gaara growled. If this was some kind of joke, then by all means, he'll show them what it is like to joke with the cage. Kankuro nodded his head as he left the room, rushing to get the requested items. No one else wanted to be Gaara's secretary, and he was the only one stuck doing it. As he thought back to how angry Gaara was, he decided to increase his pace, fearing that this could only lead to trouble. Only a complete idiot would mess with Gaara right now. 1 week later, Shizune checked her watch as she waited outside the doors. If she just slightly pressed her ear against the door, she could hear almost everything that was going on in the room. Shizune decided against it. She would have to trust that whatever they're talking about inside would be relevant. Why must she kid herself? Whenever those two get together, they usually first end up drinking sake before Tsunade-sama loses her temper from something perverted that Jiraiya-sama would say. It was almost like a formula between the two. One can't happen without the other. Get out! Get out! An angry voice shouted. The doors quickly opened as Jiraiya ducked under a flying saucer. Okay. No need to get angry. He shouted back. He quickly closed the door, avoiding a head-on collision with an empty sake bottle. Did you comment about her again? Jiraiya turned around and released an inconspicuous laughter, knowing that he was caught red-handed. What? Shizune-chan. I'm appalled. How could you think that of me? Shizune shook her head. It was like teaching an old dog new tricks. They never learn from their mistakes. Yeah, the man finally admitted. He had nothing to fear. Shizune wouldn't hurt a person that was like an uncle figure to her. Shizune held the files closer to her chest and stared at the door. She's been depressed since he left, hasn't she? Yeah, couldn't you do anything to cheer her up? Yeah, Shizune felt the last of her nerves twitching. Could you say anything else besides yeah? Yeah, that's it. She had it with this perverted man. No woman could ever have the patience to talk normally with him. She quickly kicked him in the groin before allowing herself into the room. Jiraiya was left outside on the floor, groaning in pain as he tended to his family jewels. Tsunade-sama, are you okay? Shizune asked, concerned for her mentor's well-being. She noticed that Tsunade hasn't been drinking a lot lately and people have claimed to see her actually finishing the paperwork. That itself was frightening. Did I do the right thing? Tsunade looked up, confusion written on her face. Was my actions justified? Ever since he left, she began doubting her actions, wondering if what she had done was right or wrong. Every day, she felt her heart breaking into more and more pieces as she wondered what that boy was up to. I'll watch over that boy. That's what Jiraiya said while trying to cheer her up. Ha, what a laugh. That perverted leech didn't even leave the village to look for him. All he did was stay constantly at her side. She was thankful for that, but she'll never tell. I don't think you're a terrible person, Tsunade-sama. I believe that you did it for the village. You saved his life by granting him his freedom. Shizune replied. He wouldn't want you to be like this. Ever since he left, her mentor was drowning herself in work, believing that it was the only way she could take her mind off her mistake. Even Jiraiya had to take extreme measures, insulting and being more perverted than usual. It has worked to some extent as she begun to show some life, but it was still far from what she used to be. I don't think he'll see it this way. Tsunade said as she rested her chin on her arms. And now Suna has cut off all ties with Konoha. They didn't even give me a goddamn good reason. I'm sure everything will work itself out. Shizune replied. She saw an empty spot on the desk and put some more paperwork down. No one had expected it to happen so fast. Suna sent a messenger bird with a letter personally addressed to the Hokage stating that they were removing all ties with Konoha, ending their alliance, and threatened that if they find any Konoha nin in the village, they are to be executed immediately. It was an understatement to say that the council was outraged. They were furious, demanding to go to war. It took every ounce of persuasiveness from Tsunade to stop it from happening. They just didn't have enough manpower to march straight into the desert and make war with the Kazekage. Tsunade groaned as she noticed that her stack of paperwork just increased by 5 inches within the last 10 minutes. It was just unheard of. Shizune giggled as she watched the frustration and anger appear one by one on Tsunade's face. Don't kill the papers now. There are some important documents in there. Screw this. Tsunade took one look at the paperwork and made a face. She got up and stretched her arms, feeling her body coming alive. It's too nice of a day to be spent cooped up in this stuffy office. She made her way towards the door and motioned for Shizune to accompany her. Shizune gladly accepted the invitation. It was really a nice day, and maybe it was a new day for a new beginning. As months passed, the village began to recuperate, rebuilding itself from the damage. Villagers were once again happy, knowing that their children were safe. The entire military division of Konoha began to reevaluate their standards, making sure that nothing like this would happen again. Konoha had also begun to offer more training to ninjas, allow them to prepare for any type of situation. Missions were still being given and completed at the usual rate. Even Kakashi had begun to show up on time, which surprised his team. Sasuke and Sakura were still going out but were taking it one step at a time. Neither one wanted to rush and destroy the relationship that they worked so hard to build up on. Sakura had to sometimes watch Sasuke in case he overdid himself with training. Ever since he was found beaten on the ground, he had taken it on himself to increase his training regimen. No one knows what happened that day, but they could only guess. Team 10 with their sensei, Asuma Sarutobi, continued to negotiate with Suna, on a discreet note. Their correspondent, Tamari herself. She was in love with her pineapple-shaped boyfriend, but she was too proud to let him know. He was the only reason she ever came back to this place. The group was working on a plan to somehow reunite Suna and Konoha, but as their plan goes, they weren't making much progress. Guy's team was always Guy's team. Lee and Neji was out of the hospital but was still in no shape to do missions. They were taken off the active duty list and were recovering surely but slowly. That explosion left them scarred for life, a reminder that they were lucky to be alive. Tenten was moved over to Kurenai's team to replace Kiba because he was taken off the active duty list as well. In many ways, Naruto's departure led to many changes in the village. Whether it may be good or bad, it still showed them that they were too relaxed and a single man alone was able to cripple half the village's military power. Danzo seemingly disappeared after leaving the temporary Konoha hospital. No one has seen hair or hide of Danzo since the incident, but word on the street was that he was still alive and plotting revenge. 6 months later. Tsunade-sama. Shizune shouted as she ran into the room, disrupting Tsunade from her daily nap. Things began to return to normal after a few months and Tsunade no longer blamed herself for Naruto's departure. Things were slowly returning back to the way they once were, with Tsunade sleeping and ignoring the paperwork. Huh, Wizat? Tsunade groggily answered. She wiped the drool off her mouth and slowly sat up, wondering what was so urgent that she had to be disturbed. Team Kakashi and Asuma have found the entrance to the Akatsuki base. They are currently engaging Uchiha Itachi and Kisame Hoshigaki in battle. What? Tsunade jumped up, knocking over a pile of paper. This was big news. Akatsuki was on the move lately and no one knew why. Where is the base located? Shizune quickly checked her report, scanning the portions quickly. Kakashi failed to mention their present location. She continued to skim through the report. Tsunade cursed the cycloptic man, damning him and his lazy ways. Tell them to regroup. There must be a reason why those two were the only ones there. Tsunade could feel it in her gut. Something bad was brewing out there and she didn't like it. Shizune didn't bother to interrupt. She could hear the urgency coming from her voice. She was only like this when she truly believed it was a crisis. She quickly excused herself and walked out of the room to do what was asked of her. Akatsuki base. You're really pitiful, Sasuke. You had several teachers and yet you're still weak. Itachi said as he brought his elbow down on Sasuke's left leg, attempting to break the knee. I shouldn't have spared you back then. Sasuke jumped up and performed a roundhouse kick with his other leg, trying to get Itachi to release his hold. Itachi ducked under the kick and forcefully threw him towards Sakura. Sakura braced herself to catch Sasuke, keeping the damage done to them to a minimum. You come in here and expect to kill me at your level. I'm very disappointed. You don't know anything about me. Sasuke retorted as he pulled himself off Sakura, making sure she was okay before turning his attention back to Itachi. He held out his left arm and took a deep breath. Chidori! He shouted out while rushing forward. The sounds of chirping echoed throughout the cave. Die Itachi! Sasuke yelled out. He ran straight to Itachi, feeling that today was the day that he can finally have his revenge. Itachi stood there, unfazed by the murderous intent produced by Sasuke. He merely responded by raising his finger, pointing it at Sasuke. Sasuke-kun. Wait. Sakura saw the tiny movement by Itachi and jumped in, realizing that Itachi was planning something. Sakura no. Kakashi shouted. From the corner of his eye, he could see Sakura ignoring his warning. The copy ninja was currently preoccupied with Kisame, as a stand-in replacement for Shikamaru, who was the first to be targeted by the missing nin. With Kisame. That tickled but fun time is over. Get off me. Kisame laughed at the pathetic attempt made by the Konoha nin. There was no way a weakling like that could stop him. They have been fighting for 20 minutes now and he was having too much fun to kill them. The Akatsuki member proceeded to remove the man, but to his surprise, he found himself struggling to move his own body. What the hell? It takes two to do teamwork. Not one. Shikamaru stepped into Kisami's range of vision, his hands by his side. He would allow the missing nin to witness the technique that was going to be his downfall. Kisami's eyes widened, surprised to see him still standing. I thought I killed you. Nope. You just missed my vitals. Shikamaru wiped the blood off from the near-fatal wound, allowing Kisame to see it for himself. With Choji's strength combined with my Kajimane, the unstoppable becomes stoppable. Kisame gritted his teeth. He didn't like this. He struggled to move his Samahata forward, pushing against the shadows with all his might. Shikamaru grunted as he tried his best to stop the man from moving. Do it now. He couldn't hold it long. Maybe 20 seconds more before he collapses from exhaustion. Kakashi took the hint and jumped over Shikamaru, his hands going through a set of seals at a fast pace. Kakashi gripped his right hand, feeling the flow of chakra going through it. He ran over towards Kisame, with his right arm resembling the Chidori. Kisame saw the attack coming and made an attempt to raise his hand, having the Samahata in front of him to block the attack. Not this time. I've been waiting a long time for this day. From the corner of Kisami's eye, he could see Asuma appearing in front of him. With a quick slash from the man, Kisame cried out in pain as he watched the man sever his right hand off, leaving himself defenseless against the attack. Asuma took a puff of smoke, holding on to this trench knives tightly. He stood there waiting for Kakashi to finish it. Reikiri! Kakashi shouted, extending his arm forward, hitting Kisame above the heart. Shikamaru gasped for air as he fell to the ground, feeling drained. Ino hurried to his side, quickly starting treatment for his wounds. Why didn't you just let me heal you before? Her hands were already starting the healing jutsu, feeling glad that all those long hours spent training with Tsunade-sama was finally paying off. Shikamaru let out a soft chuckle. It was just part of the plan. He felt body reaching out for him, asking for a rest. He couldn't keep his eyes opened any longer and soon passed out from exhaustion. Ino sat there, concentrating on healing his wound, but inside her mind, she was proud of him for holding on this long. Kisame was a man who was known to have a high pain tolerance, but today he discovered a completely new meaning to pain. The wounds he received at the hands of these insects were intolerable. First, he lost his dominant right hand and he was barely alive. Damn these insects to hell. He ignored the pain and delivered a hard left elbow to the back of Choji's, rendering him unconscious. With fluid motion, he took a step forward and caught Kakashi by the throat, gripping it tightly. I'll take your death as payment for my hand. Kisame snarled. He had underestimated his opponents and it has cost him big time. He had to get them now before it was too late. Kakashi struggled a bit against Kisame, smirking before he disappeared in a puff of smoke, revealing a log in Kisami's procession. Kisame was caught off guard by the kawarimi that he failed to notice Asuma appearing right behind the long, his hands on the dragon seal. Kaden. Hi Sekisho, he blew out a lingering cloud of smoke in front of Kisame, trapping him within the cloud. Arg. Kisame took several steps, trying to escape from the scorching smoke. He ignored the pain in his arms, trying to get the smoke out of his face. His cloak was already torn to pieces from the earlier assault. His mind finally registered that the entire fight, from beginning to end, was just a setup for this moment. Asuma, with every ounce of chakra left in him, extended his wind element on his weapon before slicing Kisame in half, ultimately ending his life and ninja career. Asuma walked up to Kakashi, who was barely standing from fighting the S-ranked ninja. It took the four of them to bring down this beast. He wondered if they had enough left over to fight Itachi. And then there was two. Kakashi lazily answered as he collapsed in his friend's arm. With Itachi, Sasuke had a satisfied look on his face when he found his arm piercing through Itachi's heart, smirking as he watched Itachi cough out blood, but his expression turned to shock when the Itachi in front of him disappeared into birds. "This is how you do it, little brother." Sasuke turned around, surprised to see Itachi racing up to him with a Chidori. "How the hell did he put me in a genjutsu?" Sasuke shook off that thought, immediately preparing the required hand seals for another Chidori. "Bring it, Itachi." He ran towards Itachi, both Uchihas arching their arm back, gaining momentum. "Chidori!" Both of them cried out. The light was intensified as Chidori met Chidori head-on, each one struggling for dominance. "Ugh! This has to be a joke. Our levels cannot be this goddamn far apart." Sasuke struggled to keep Itachi at bay, making sure he wasn't gaining any leverage. He felt his legs giving out as Itachi continued to push, hands locked in combat. "You lose once more, Sasuke." Itachi stood a step forward, using his body weight to gain an advantage. When he saw Sasuke struggling to push back, Itachi immediately withdrew his hands, catching his little brother off balance. "Shit." Sasuke felt himself slipping as Itachi released his hand, canceling his own Chidori. Sasuke tilted his head up, to see Itachi smirking down on him. "It can't end this way." Itachi quickly rammed his knee against Sasuke's jaw, sending the boy backwards. He saw the perfect moment and struck his arm out, the black-colored Chidori aimed straight for the heart. "The Shinigami will not be claiming Sasuke-kun's soul today, Itachi." Sasuke turned his head slightly to see Sakura standing there, his eyes detecting chakra gathering in her fist. "Take this." Sakura slammed her knuckle into the ground, causing a shockwave that knocked Sasuke off his feet, saving his life. Itachi had a look of surprise on his face when he saw Sasuke drop to the ground in front of him, just missing his attack. Sasuke saw his window of opportunity and took this chance to counter. He regained his balance on his feet and landed an uppercut on Itachi. The elder Uchiha took a few steps back, caught off guard from the sudden attack. Itachi wiped the blood off his mouth and smirked. "Good try, but it's still futile." Itachi's regular Sharingan changed into the Mangekyo and began to spin. As he began calling forth one of the Mangekyo's technique, something stopped him from moving his body. "For a missing nin, you're quite careless," Ino whispered as she appeared behind him. Itachi had no time to react when he felt something stabbing him in the back. Itachi felt his body becoming numb as Ino removed the syringe from Itachi's back. She held Itachi's arm out, preventing him from doing any jutsu. "Now Sasuke!" Ino and Sakura both shouted. They both knew how important it was for Sasuke to kill his older brother. Ever since he was a genin, he had been waiting for this day, living in hate and sorrow just to kill him, and now the chance has finally arrived. "Today it all ends, Itachi." Sasuke held out his left arm and took slow breaths. "Reikiri!" Sasuke yelled out, feeling the power cruising through his veins. This was the improved version of the Chidori, twice the killing power, twice the damage. He had worked hard to get it to his stage, and now, he can finally use it for what it was originally intended for, assassination. He dashed towards his older brother, his eyes guiding his body every step along the way. Itachi closed his eyes, knowing that his death was imminent. There was no use denying it. He had no regrets. He did what was asked of him and nothing more. He felt his heart yearning for him to keep his eyes open, to see his younger brother kill him. Today you will finally pay for what you did 13 years ago. Sasuke took a leap into the air, wanting to finally feel free from the burden he was given to carry. While he was in flight, he saw no emotions in Itachi's eyes, which pissed him off even more. Even now you still show no remorse for the massacre. He thrust his arm forward, preparing the final judgment for his brother. In a sudden moment, a cloaked figure that stood by the sidelines watching decided to finally make his move. Within a blink of an eye, the figure disappeared from the sidelines and intercepted Sasuke's attack with a kick to the ribs, sending him away from Itachi. Sasuke was sent skidding towards the ground, his left arm accidentally touching the floor, resulting in an explosion. Everyone stood there, unsure of what was going on. The figure stood in front of Itachi, his hands inside his cloak. Sasuke slowly got up on his feet, furious at the newcomer's arrival. "Who the hell are you?" he spat out. He had so many chances to kill Itachi and every one of them were interrupted. The figure ignored him as he carefully scanned the crowd. 1, 2, 4 people left, he counted to himself. He turned his attention to the man behind him, finding the scene quite amusing. "Itachi, it seems that our positions are now reversed." Itachi raised his eyebrow, recognizing the voice. He tried to speak but found nothing coming out of his mouth. No response. It must have been a pretty strong drug to keep you from talking. If you're with Itachi then you are my enemy as well. Sasuke disappeared from his position, adrenaline rushing through his veins. He was moving faster than before but he paid no attention. His mind set on killing the people in front of him. With his Mangekyo Sharingan activated, he was already behind his brother and this mysterious figure. "Nothing will stand in my way. It is my destiny to avenge my clan." Sasuke quickly performed another Raikiri and thrust his arm forward, intending of ending the fight with one blow. The figure took his right hand out of the cloak and grabbed Sasuke's left hand, nullifying the attack. Sasuke looked appalled. He couldn't believe that this person stopped his attack with just a right hand. It was just unbelievable. Are you always this emotional? Why don't you just be a good dog and play dead? Sakura, Ino and Asuma stared at the mysterious person, each wondering who he was. One thing was for sure, he was strong enough to cancel out the Raikiri with one hand. "Who the hell are you?" Sasuke demanded. He tried to break free from the man's grip but was surprised at his strength. There was no way he could budge from it. The figure frowned before answering him. "I'm what you call the calm before the storm." He lowered the hand and applied more pressure, crushing Sasuke's hand. Sasuke screamed in agony as his hand became useless. "I'm sorry. Did that hurt?" The man then slammed his fist into Sasuke's ribs, breaking several of them. Sasuke dropped to the floor, his body screaming out for mercy. He glared at the man, his eyes glowing with hatred. "Sasuke-kun!" Sakura screamed. She charged in blindly and was preparing a punch that could rival her sensei's. The man turned his attention to Sakura, ignoring Sasuke for the time being. He watched as Sakura charged in with her hand arched back, intending to smash it in his face. The mysterious figure stood his ground, stopped Sakura's enhanced punch with just an open palm. Everyone winced from the sound of her fist smashing against the man's palm. A painful scream could be heard as Sakura pulled her fist back, several bones broken and cracked in her hand. She sat on the floor, tightly holding her hands while glaring at the man. "It's been a long time. Sakura." The figure removed his hood, revealing his blonde hair and blue eyes. Sakura's eyes widened as she recognized the figure. Naruto. Everyone stood there shocked. Shock was just an understatement. No one had expected the blonde to show up here out of all the other possible places. Naruto stood there, his face deprived of any emotion as he looked into Itachi's eyes. My debt to you is now repaid, Itachi. A life for a life. Why must you always be in my way, Naruto? Sasuke screamed. It was always Naruto that stood between him and his goals. There was never a time when he had no competition. Sasuke leapt forward, his right hand on the Kusanagi. He brought it down with a diagonal slash on Naruto, aiming to cut off his head. Naruto stepped forward and caught the blade between his fingers, forcing Sasuke to lower the sword. If you weren't worth Itachi's time, you are certainly not worth mine. Just as Naruto was about to say something else, Ino, who stayed hidden behind Itachi, reached for another syringe and jumped behind Naruto, aiming to inject him with the same thing she did with Itachi. Naruto noticed her small figure just in time and turned around, smashing his elbow into Sasuke's face, causing the younger Uchiha to relinquish his hold over the sword. With the sword in his hand, he dodged the stab from the needle by sidestepping the girl twice and ended up behind Ino. Naruto held the sharp sword to Ino's throat, calm breaths coming from him. It's been a long time, Ino. It seems the years have been kind to you. Screw you, demon. Ino sneered. Naruto turned his attention to the others, seeing as how Kakashi was unconscious and Asuma had his hands on his favorite trench knives. If you would kindly let me leave here with Itachi, I can promise to spare your student's life. It's your call now. Asuma gritted his teeth. It was a tough decision. There was no guarantee what he would do to Ino and he was down 4 men. He tried searching for more answers but there was nothing more he could do. There was no way he could beat Naruto in his current state. Naruto noticed that Asuma was hesitating for a bit, a grin slowly formed on his face. It's not that hard, Asuma. Let me go in exchange for her life, or else I'll send her body back in a coffin. Naruto informed the man. Konoha will greatly mourn the loss of the Yamanaka heir. Asuma, in all his years of service, was left with no other option but to follow the orders of his enemy. Take Itachi and leave. The words painfully left his mouth, already regretting those words. No, a voice shouted. Sasuke struggled painfully to get back on his feet, preparing to what looks like a final Reikiri. You would risk her life to complete your revenge? Naruto asked. One lost would mean the deaths of several dangerous criminals. Sakura shouted. She was doing everything in her power to not rush straight into the situation. If they could execute this attack, then Ino's death would not be in vain. Ino stared at her best friend straight in the eyes. She couldn't believe what was happening. All the things that they'd been through, and this was how Sakura had chose to end their friendship. Don't worry, Ino. I swear to you we'll get him and avenge your death. No, not this way. I don't want it this way. Ino shouted back. Tears began filling her eyes. She didn't want to die yet. She still haven't done all the things she wanted. She wanted a family, a nice house where her kids can grow up and play. All those dreams that she had started to fade away. Reikiri. Sasuke charged in, aiming to kill everyone that stood in his path. He had put all his chakra into this final attack. Naruto stood there, shaking his head. This generation of ninjas that Konoha raised turned out to be quite a disappointment, hasn't it, Asuma-san? Asuma looked bewildered as he saw Naruto disappeared out of Sasuke's way, causing him to collide into Sakura, sending them both into the ground once more. He ignored the loud explosion caused by the attack and scanned the area, his eyes finally finding Naruto standing by the doorway, holding Ino in his arms with a cage bushin holding onto Itachi. The deal's off, Asuma-san. I will be sending her back in a body bag. Naruto coldly stated. Wait, Asuma shouted at Naruto. If it meant saving his student's life, he would gladly give up his to save hers. He had already seen most of the world but Ino hasn't. Before he could do anything else, Naruto disappeared into the forest, taking with him his student and Itachi. 10 miles elsewhere, the Naruto clone dropped Itachi off from his shoulder, earning the Uchiha a rough landing with the ground. The original Naruto carefully put Ino near a tree, tying her up. He splashed some water over Ino's face, awakening her. You will tell me what you did to Itachi. Ino opened her eyes, surprised to find herself staring into the face of her captor. Why should I help you? She spat out venomously. Naruto glared at her. Even in this type of situation. Don't you know when you've already lost? Naruto pressed a kunai near her throat, allowing her to feel the coldness of the weapon. They left you for dead. You might as well make yourself useful to me before I end your pitiful life. Ino felt her fears rising from the bottom of her stomach. She was actually scared of this man, scared that he would actually kill her in cold blood. It was no longer the Naruto she knew. This was the voice of a cold-blooded killer. Are you going to talk? Naruto pressed the weapon in, drawing a little blood. Or do I have to dig a little deeper? It was an experimental paralyzing serum. The effects should have worn off by now. Please don't kill me. Ino answered quickly, fear taking over her body. Naruto heard some noise behind him and turned his head to see Itachi moving. The Uchiha began to move his body, able to regain feeling over his body once more. A bit theatrical back there, don't you think, Naruto-kun? Naruto shrugged. Whatever works, Itachi. The Uchiha nodded. They have lost track of the boy since he disappeared after destroying half of Konoha's military force. The Kyuubi container was somehow able to avoid their radar, which made tracking him insanely difficult. Why did you save me? Naruto blinked twice, surprised at the question. Nevertheless, he had a purpose for saving his life. I've come to take you up on that offer. Itachi thought it over before answering. In his mind, he was actually impressed with the strength that the Kyuubi container displayed. It would seem like he greatly improved during his travels. We'll be glad to have you. The Uchiha responded, knowing what offer the blonde was talking about. With the loss of his partner, Naruto Uzumaki might make a great addition to the team. Naruto turned his attention to the whimpering Ino, who was sitting there looking scared. Naruto walked up to her and stared into her eyes. I could end your life right here, but I won't. He looked around, seeing if there was anyone nearby. He took out a kunai and held it tightly, a sign that most people do before stabbing or cutting something. Time began to slow down for Ino as she watched Naruto come closer and closer, fearing the moment until he actually reached her. Her mind wandered back to Naruto Uzumaki. The enigma of Konoha. Ino couldn't remember spending that much time with the boy because of what everyone said. She could feel his power radiating off him like the sun giving off warmth. It happened so quickly. In a flash, Naruto just disappeared from their lives and reappeared at the trial to just disappear once more. Now the man was standing in front of her, probably going to end her life. If she could go back in time to change all this, she would make sure this wouldn't have happened. Ino saw Naruto bringing his arms closer and she closed her eyes, anticipating the pain to come. She had gotten cut, stabbed and sliced before, and each time, it still frightened her. She opened them a second later when she felt her chains become undone. Never in a million years did she accept him to do this. If it was the other way around, she would have done the same thing. Ino looked up and met Naruto's eyes, wondering why he didn't kill her. Why? She whispered out. Naruto stared into her eyes, wondering if she was just stupid or curious. A storm doesn't always hit everything. He replied, leaving her with a cryptic message. Naruto turned around and took off with Itachi towards an unknown direction, leaving her alone in the forest. Near the border of Kase no Kuni. Hold on. Itachi suddenly answered. They spent hours traveling towards their destination point, but it was mostly done in silence. There wasn't any need for conversation between them. These were two men that spent most of their life alone and isolated from everyone else. They have learned to survive on their own, shunned out by the place they once called home. They were labeled as monsters because of their past, the past which no one can escape but only accept. Uchiha Itachi, the man that single-handedly wiped out his clan in one night in Uzumaki Naruto, the Kyuubi container himself. Even if they had conversed, there would be nothing to talk about because these were men of action, not men of words. Itachi strayed away from the path and landed on the ground, putting a temporarily stop to their journey. "We're going back." Naruto landed right next to him, wondering why they were stopping. "Is that really necessary?" His voice filled with annoyance. Itachi noticed the tone and gave him an icy glare. "What does it matter to you?" he bitterly replied. Naruto shrugged. "I rather not waste my time idling around for useless things." It was pointless to argue at this point. He needed Itachi to get there, and if the Uchiha weren't ready to take him there, he would have to play his game for a while longer. He took the initiative and led the way back, his mind focused on only one thing. The joining. Itachi sighed, shaking his head. "I hope the leader was right about you." Itachi followed pursuit, hoping to catch up with Naruto before he left him behind. With Ino, it was a complete understatement to say that Ino was mad. She was beyond mad. Not even the wraith of the devil himself could match what she was feeling right now. As she made her way back to Konoha, she was destroying everything in her path, branches, trees, whatever she could take her frustrations out on. Her day went from bad to worse in a matter of minutes. She continued to curse her day as the scenes replayed themselves over and over in her head. It was unbelievable how well choreographed everyone was. It was as if they all had a part in this grand scheme to make her life miserable. "It was no one's fault but mine that I was captured as a hostage, but," Ino said out loud. This was a trick that she picked up from Tenten. By saying these thoughts out loud, it allowed her to freely gather her thoughts and approach them in a logical and scientific way. It was also her way of keeping herself calm. She's been known to throw crazy tantrums, according to Shikamaru. "I should have never accepted this mission. I knew I should have stayed in Konoha." A village is defined by how many missions they receive. The more missions that the village receives, the better their reputation is. Missions are also a way to judge ninjas. The more missions that they do, the higher their status is. A ninja's life is only worth as much as their missions. There was really no guarantee to what the occupation of a ninja would hold, whether they would live to see tomorrow or not. It varies due of the dangerous nature of this job. To throw away my life like some sort of useless trash, that is their fault. Ino released a small growl, gripping her knuckles tightly. It pissed her off when the person who she considered her best friend, her sister, was nothing more than a facade. "Ah!" Ino yelled out as she smashed her fist into the tree. She winced at the pain but shrugged it off, seeing as how the pain was also relieving her at the moment. "Damn Sakura," Ino whispered. Ino took a step forward, preparing to continue with her traveling back home, but when she took that step, she felt herself losing focus for a second. Ino staggered back, pressing her palm to her forehead. "Whoa, I must be losing it." An image of Sakura appeared in front of her, a smirk on her face. "That must be it. I'm pushing my body too much and this is its way of telling me to take it easy." Ino reasoned with herself as she continued to stare at the image of Sakura that was fixated in front of her. She looked towards another direction but Sakura was there as well. Ino growled in annoyance. "Why am I seeing her face now?" "That's simple, Ino pig. You can't stand the fact that I'm stronger than you and I'm also dating Sasuke-kun. You're just jealous that you can't be like me." A voice similar to Sakura's whispered. Ino felt her body quiver from the voice. After hours of traveling alone, hearing the voice of the person she wanted to get revenge on wasn't exactly her main concern. "Sakura, come out here, forehead girl," Ino shouted. She took a glance around her surroundings, searching for any signs of a genjutsu. The Sakura image reappeared in front of her, smirking at her once more. "Why?" Ino charged forward, her fist arched back. "Why the hell are you smirking?" Ino cried out as she slammed her fist through Sakura's face. The image slowly faded, leaving the girl completely confused. She had just destroyed a tree, but their Sakura was nowhere to be found. Feeling exhausted, Ino dropped to the ground, leaning against the broken tree. I seriously need to get back to Konoha, she whispered into the wind, praying that she'll make it back in one piece. With Itachi and Naruto, why are we going back? Naruto inquired. He already knew the answer, but he didn't know for sure. There were some uncertainty in the air and he hated that. It was just one of those rules that men make for themselves. For him, there were a few rules that he lived by and it has gotten him through life so far. Never trust anybody and never assume anything. Those were his top 2 rules. I need to bury his body. Itachi answered. Not many people knew this, but they had a bond between them, a bond that was between brothers. They have been partners ever since he first joined the organization, and it would be dishonorable to leave his friend like that. I don't see that as a valid reason for going back. He's dead. There's nothing we can do. We should be moving. Before Naruto could finish that sentence, he was slammed into a tree, Itachi's hand tightly gripping his throat. Itachi stared into the man's eyes, his Mangekyo Sharingan spinning rapidly. This is not about what you want to do. This is about what I want to do. Itachi coldly exclaimed. Open your damn eyes, Itachi. He died because he was weak. The weak has no place among the strong. He might be a partner, even a friend to you, but to me, he was nothing. Naruto retorted in an equally cold tone. Both men stared at each other, neither moving a muscle. Itachi finally relinquished his hold over Naruto, dropping him to the ground. If you ever disrespect Kisame again, I will kill you. I would like to see you try Uchiha-san. Naruto whispered, putting emphasis on Itachi's clan name. Tension began to rise up between the two, each glaring at each other. Itachi stood near Naruto, his figure looming over the man. Don't try me, Uzumaki, or I'll show you what a real Uchiha can do. Your brother already tried proving that. Will there be a difference between you and him? I surely don't see it. Naruto answered, mocking Itachi. My weak brother is blinded by his ambitions. Do not compare him to me. Itachi replied. He started to walk off into the cave alone, leaving Naruto outside. Naruto sat there and frowned. A dead man is still a dead man no matter how you look at it. His eyes growing red for a second. There is no such thing as a good man in this world, Itachi. Naruto said while staring into the cave. In Konoha 5 p.m. Tsunade let out a small yawn, stretching her arms. It was that time of day and the paperwork was just high enough to be her pillow. Just as she was about to put her head down, Shizune ran into the room, letting the doors bang against the wall as it opened. Tsunade-sama. Tsunade let out a small groan. There goes her afternoon nap. After a long day of paperwork and drinking sake, she deserved a nap. What is it now, Shizune? Unless half of Konoha was under attack by Akatsuki and demons, there was no way she was leaving her office. They're back, Tsunade-sama. Tsunade raised her eyebrow, not completely sure what she was talking about. Who's back? Team 7 and 10. Tsunade sat up. The news had her undivided attention. This was a lot better than doing some lousy paperwork. Well, go get them in here. I have some questions for them. Shizune hesitated for a second. They're currently in the hospital at the moment, Tsunade-sama. They ran into some problems while encountering Itachi and Kisame. Wondering what happened, Tsunade jumped out of her seat and made a dash for the door. Come on. Don't just stand there. We have to get down there. She barked out. Shizune quickly nodded her head and ran after her. With Ino. My god. I didn't think we traveled that far out from Konoha. Ino mentally cursed. She was a long way off from her destination. There was nothing but trees and more trees. It was already getting dark and she was deciding if she should set up camp or not. Is getting my revenge this important that it's driving me to keep going? I wonder what kept him going. Ino's expression suddenly changed. Somehow, Images of him wandered into her mind. She wasn't even thinking about it. She started laughing as she rested against a tree. I must be going crazy. She thought back to the times she spent with the hyperactive blonde. Surprisingly, no matter how hard she tried, she had no memories of ever spending time with the blonde. Is this truly how much I know about Naruto? She asked herself. She couldn't remember anything about him, his likes and dislikes, his favorite hobbies, or even his birthday. She quickly dismissed those negative thoughts out of her head, wanting questions that could trigger a memory that she forgotten. There must be something about him that I knew. She thought back a bit further. She got her answer when she remembered something from their genin days. Flashback. Naruto. What do you plan on doing when you become older? Uruka asked. It was nearing the end of the exams and he always did this exercise. He wanted to ask the kids what their dreams and encourage them to follow it. He wanted to play a role in these kids' life, knowing that they might not have much of a life after they graduate. I'm going to be the greatest Hokage there ever was. Naruto shouted. He jumped on his desk and pointed towards the window. I will surpass the Yondaime and then everyone will see that I'm better than he is. The class burst out laughing, knowing that he was the class's dead last. A loser who couldn't achieve that dream no matter how hard he tried. You're a loser, Naruto. There's no way you could become Hokage. Why don't I become Hokage for you? I have a better chance than you. Heck, even Choji could become Hokage before you. Kiba shouted. Ino snorted. Get real, Kiba. The only person who could become Hokage is Sasuke-kun. She looked at her Sasuke-kun. The boy of her affections during her younger days. Naruto only smiled. That Tem couldn't hold a candle to my powers, Ino-chan. You're better off leaving him for me. Ino laughed once more. Get real, Naruto. Get real. Flashback end. Ino sighed. She really had no relevant information about him. She only had bits and pieces of information. Besides the fact that there was only a handful of blondes in the village. She had nothing. She did know that he was going out with Sakura for a while, but after they broke up, he just disappeared from their lives completely. Whenever she had hung out with the rest of the Rookie Nine, Naruto was never there. No one even bothered to bring up his name, nor did they seem to care he was missing. A bit of guilt raced through her heart. Was it our fault he turned out like this? Would it have made a difference if one person cared? She tried to picture herself in his place, but it was difficult being Naruto. She couldn't imagine just being him. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that she never really tried to understand Naruto, and because of that, she almost died by his hands. She shuddered at that thought. His cold blue eyes still engraved in her memories. Will you truly be happy when you get your revenge, Naruto? Is revenge the only path that a person that's been betrayed can take? She asked. There was no answer, not even a breeze of the night wind. She chuckled at herself. Of course no one was going to answer her. There was no one here in the first place. She looked up at the stars, searching for some sort of answer. What made you turn out this way, Naruto? Would it have been different if someone cared? As Ino continued back on her journey, it was by coincidence she missed a shooting star that happened to pass by. It was as if someone was listening to her. Konoha Hospital. Tsunade stood outside the door, catching her breath before entering. She couldn't just enter the room looking out of breath. She was the Hokage. She had an image to uphold. If they found out that she got tired from running here, she would lose respect from her fellow ninjas. She smiled as she heard laughing and talking inside. This was a good sign that everything was okay. As she opened the door, everyone continued to talk, not noticing her standing there. She let out a small cough, letting everyone know that she was there. I see that you're all okay. Shisho. Sakura replied while everyone else respectfully called her Hokage-sama. Tsunade nodded her head and entered the room with Shizune. I see that you're all back in one piece, with the exceptions of a few. She looked around the room. Sakura had bandages around her hand while Sasuke had them on his upper body. Shikamaru was sitting on a chair next to Choji's bed, keeping him company. Asuma was standing next to Kakashi, smoking a cigarette in a forbidden zone. As Tsunade looked around the room, she noticed that someone was missing. Where's that Yamanaka girl? Asuma took one last puff of his cigarette before smothering it on the floor. It was his duty to tell her. She was on his team since their Genin days, and as her Junin instructor, he will make sure that her death did not go in vain. She's gone, Hokage-sama. What do you mean she's gone? She couldn't have disappeared during a mission. Tsunade replied. It was against protocol to run away from a mission. That itself could sentence Ino to death if she was found by Anbu. Noticing that no one responded to her question, she looked around, everyone still with their heads down, avoiding her gaze. She didn't understand the silent treatment. There has to be something they weren't telling her. He took her. Asuma finally answered. That was the truth. No matter how much he tried to hide it, there was no use denying the fact that she was gone. Tsunade looked at the elder Sarutobi, trying to understand the meaning behind that sentence. We ran into Naruto, Hokage-sama. Kakashi spoke up. Naruto. He's alive. Tsunade managed to stutter out. What was he doing there? Is he okay? No. I'll tell her. It was my fault things turned out like this. Asuma spoke up, interrupting Kakashi. You might want to sit down for this. It's a long story. Tsunade nodded, pulling up a chair. As Asuma retold their mission report in full details, Tsunade went into shock. She couldn't believe that Naruto had a part in this. He wouldn't do this. She tried to convince herself otherwise. There was no way Naruto was the one who attacked them. Why would he do this? She demanded. Shisho, it's true. Sakura sighed and lowered her head. He was probably working with Akatsuki. That's the only reason why he would show up there. Sakura fiddled with her broken hand, feeling a slight pain. Don't worry, Hokage-sama. We'll get him next time. Sasuke confidently replied, wrapping his hands around Sakura's waist. Yeah, Sakura answered, leaning closer into his embrace. Tsunade felt a major migraine coming on. Get some rest and then I want you all in my office first thing tomorrow morning. Tsunade got up and left the room, giving them time to recuperate. Next morning 10 a.m. Excuse me, Tsunade-sama. Sakura is here to see you. Tsunade looked up from her paperwork to her apprentice standing by the door. Tsunade nodded her head, acknowledging the request. Thank you, Shizune. Shizune closed the door after Sakura entered, ensuring that the things that they were about to be discussing was not interrupted. Tsunade looked around, wondering what happened to the others. She wanted all of them in her office, not just one. Where are the others? They were just too exhausted to come. Sakura answered. After that mission, everyone deserved a day off. It had been hard on them all, losing Ino and all. Tsunade mumbled something about lazy ninjas before pointing to the seat next to Shizune. Sit. We have a lot to talk about. She cleared all the paperwork just for today. There was some part of the mission report that seemed fabricated. There was no way she could bring herself to the fact that Naruto had really committed these crimes. It was just too unbelievable. With Ino, I'm almost there. Ino told herself. She could almost taste it. She was almost home. As she got closer, she saw the new gates of Konoha. Tsunade-sama had invested a lot of time and effort into remaking these gates. She didn't understand why the Hokage would do something like that, but Shino once told her it served as a memorial to the ninjas that lost their lives during that fateful day. As she approached the front gate, she saw a young genin team composed of 2 girls and a boy leaving Konoha. She couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu as they walked past her. These girls were just like her when she first started, inexperienced, and from the looks that they were giving that boy, a fangirl. Oh well. They'll soon learn that life isn't all that glamorous. Ino thought. Her personal life hasn't changed much except that she was no longer interested in Sasuke. She preferred not to be dating and put her social life on hold due to her fellowship with Ibiki. When it came to dating, she had just a few qualities that she looked for in a man: handsome, strong, and knows what he wants in life. She wasn't going to settle for anything less. Her mind somehow conjured up an image of Naruto staring at her with his cold blue eyes. As she stared back into his blue eyes, she found that she was no longer afraid of them but was mesmerized by it. There was something in those eyes that captivated her. She immediately dismissed her thoughts and headed for the Hokage Tower. She had a score to settle with a certain pink-headed girl. Hell is about to be frozen over. Ino thought as she ran through the streets of Konoha. With Itachi and Naruto, we travel all night to come here and you're still not ready to bury him. You're wasting my time here, Itachi. Naruto coldly stated. Sitting against a rock was not his ideal place to be for the past hour. His patience was already running low and he was tempted with just killing Itachi here and now. I'll be done when I'm done. Itachi replied with his eyes closed. He was currently in a silent prayer, paying his respects for his fallen comrade. I don't like it when people keep me waiting, Itachi. Do not make me wait. Naruto warned before disappearing in a puff of smoke, leaving the Uchiha alone.